Is the approval of others important to you? Are you not able to act unless you get the approval of other people? Well, let me tell you something. I think that's a fool's game which will hold you back from living life on your terms. In this video, I'll show you how to break free from an approval-seeking mindset. It's one of the most important steps you can take if you want to have a retirement life that is lived on your own terms and which I would describe as a freedom retirement lifestyle. Society teaches us to chase success, status, money, power, all those kind of things, often just to gain approval, and that often leads to frustration. Many people want to retire early, but they just can't because they're trapped in a cycle of needing the approval of other people. They fear the judgment of others, and in particular, they fear the judgment of their nearest and dearest. If you've got elderly parents, you know how judgmental they can be. And then there's the example that you're setting your kids. If you retire early, what are your kids going to think? And that is a worry for quite a lot of people. You might think the ability to retire is all about money. And yes, money is important. But my experience is this. You need a completely different mindset if you want to retire early. Here's the truth. Retirement freedom isn't just about money. It's more important to get your mind straight and to get the reasons why you want to retire. So that if people are starting to judge you as to why you're retiring, if you're worried about the curtains twitching from your neighbours because you're not going to work anymore, and what do the neighbours think, well, that's just going to hold you back to enjoy your retirement. I know that lots of you can afford to retire because you tell me so. I get a lot of comments on these videos where people share that they're perfectly able to retire financially, but they just don't do it. And one of the biggest things I've come across when I have conversations with people is that they tell me that they're just scared of what other people think. Not just that. Their identity is very closely linked to their job. They've been an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. They've got a profession which defines them. It's something that they chose to do perhaps when they were only 21 or 22 years of age. And now they've hit their 50s and they're still defined by it. I mean, what do you say to people when you meet them in the pub and you've retired and you're not working anymore? I'm an ex-doctor, I'm an ex-accountant, and there's the crux of the problem. They're frightened to make the step to go into retirement because their status defines them. Let me tell you this, if you make decisions about your retirement and how you're going to live your life based on what other people are likely to think of you, about their approval of what you're doing, then you're never going to be free. And not just that, you are in danger of wasting the best years of your later life. Your senior years are going to be 20, 30, possibly even 40 years. The early part of those years, the first decades, your 50s and your 60s in particular, you're still going to have health and vitality. And if you're frightened of making the jump into early retirement, then you're likely to miss out on a number of things. And one of the biggest things you can miss out on is seeing your children growing up. Another thing that you'll miss out on is the companionship of your spouse or your partner. I often talk in my videos about a book that I've read by an author called Bronnie Ware. It's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And her number 2 regret is people wishing that they hadn't worked so hard. And in particular, men have that regret. They've stayed on the hamster wheel even though they didn't need to. And they've missed out on the things that I've just talked about. Their children's growing up, things they could be doing with their partners, travelling, seeing the world. They've foregone all of those things. They've made a trade-off for work versus family time. Now, to be perfectly frank with you, I wasn't immune to this mindset. I retired at 44, and back then it hit me quite hard. I was worried about what people think of me. But one of the things that I did was that I changed my mindset relatively quickly so that I wasn't bothered what they were thinking. I couldn't care less if my neighbours didn't see me driving to work anymore. They just saw me in the garden pottering around. Although I have to be honest, in the first 12 months that I was retired in my mid-40s, I was more likely to be in my dressing gown in the living room playing poker until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, absolutely. That is one way of wasting your retirement. Back then, when I was in my late 40s, the only people I could hang out with were people who were still working. All my friends were still working. Practically every business acquaintance that I'd met was still working. So I occasionally saw those people for a game of golf or to go and watch the rugby perhaps on the TV when the Six Nations was on. Or maybe we would meet up in a pub to watch a match for my favourite football team, Leeds United. And they always said the same thing. Why have you retired early? Don't you get bored? What are you going to do with yourself all day? And to cap it off, even my wife was always asking, when are you going back to work? And in theory, she was the beneficiary of me not being at work. She was the person who I was flying off to places like Brazil, New Zealand, Singapore, and seeing the world with. But at the end of the day, she wanted to know, when are you going back to work? I think if you were to ask her, she'd say that in those early years after I retired, I was just feeling a bit lost. And I think that was her motivation. Or maybe she just wanted me out of the way because I was getting under her feet. What do you think? Yeah, probably the latter, I guess. The change in my mindset was this. I stopped seeking the validation of others. I stopped seeking external approval. I ditched my corporate career type ambitions and I started focusing on different things that I wanted to achieve in my life than money, power, status, and the accumulation of things. I started to focus in on things that would fulfill my soul, things that would grow my mind. So I started dedicating myself to learning new things and having fantastic experiences. The huge benefit of that change in mindset was that by the time I was 50, I was really enjoying my retirement time. I was enjoying the fact that I used to see my son every day. I would do the school run in the morning. I would pick him up in the evening. I would attend practically every sports match that was there. Cricket, rugby, all the things that he played at school. And when I picked him up, as he grew from a 7-year-old when I first retired into a teenager, we got to talk about lots of things, music, life. My relationship with him was the massive beneficiary for me of me now being retired. I got to have a very close relationship with him and I was actively involved in his childhood years and his upbringing, and nothing could replace that. The trade-off that I made, which was dumping my ambition for that relationship with my son, was absolutely 100% the right thing to do. Now here's the irony. Those people from 20 years ago, my friends, who were asking me what was I going to do, wasn't I bored, they're now still working and they're asking me how are they going to get off the hamster wheel. Nearly all of them are perfectly capable financially of packing it in and retiring and doing something else, but they're stuck. They're stuck because they're still looking for validation. They still care what other people think about them, and they're stuck in the rat race. Life is ticking by. Most of those friends of mine are now in their mid-60s, and it really is time for them to take a rain check. There's absolutely no point staying at work and waiting until you get your state pension and you're officially a pensioner before you decide to retire. By the time you get to that age, you've absolutely no idea what your health is going to be like. And if you believe what my surgeon friend says, who's same age as me, he says that when you get to 70, the wheels are starting to fall off. And in your 60s, you'll see signs of that. And as you know, if you've watched my videos, I've had my gallbladder removed. And by the way, that's brilliant. I feel great now. Thank goodness that thing's gone. I'm starting to eat normally. I'm full of energy. It's brilliant. But here's the reality. At 64 years of age, I've had to have my gallbladder removed. It's a health issue. I'm fairly certain that in the long term, it'll be good for me. But that's an example of the wheels starting to fall off. So why wait until the wheels fall off completely and you have to stop working to retire? When you're fit and healthy, you can still get out there and do what you want to do with all four wheels still on your car. There are 3 things that you need to consider that will change your mindset. These are the 3 things that I focused on. The first one is that your self-worth is intrinsic. That means it comes from within. You don't need external validation. You don't need external approval from other people. Your motivations and everything you do should come from inside you. You have to focus on your own happiness, not the happiness of other people. You have to be selfish and look after yourself. It's about you. It's not about what other people think. People will always have opinions and they're welcome to them, but those opinions don't define you. Every time you prioritize their judgment, you lose a little bit of a piece of yourself. The second big mindset shift for me is that I stopped seeking approval. I was happy to take it if it was given, but I didn't need it. And there's the important word, need. I didn't need their approval. I mean, there were some people who 100% supported my decision to retire. And, you know, it was good to hear that they did. But whether they did or they didn't bother me. I'd changed my mindset. I didn't need their approval. I didn't want anybody's approval. All that really matters is that I was happy with the decision and it was nothing to do with them. The third big mindset shift is to avoid the more trap. You know, the one that you get stuck in when you're in your 20s and your 30s particularly. Well, at least I know I did. Maybe you didn't, but I did. And that was more money, a bigger house, more possessions, more cars. The point is that you have to develop a mindset of needing less, wanting less, and especially start ditching your stuff. My wife and I, we moved house coming up to 4 years ago now. It was when I was 60, and I ditched 75% of my stuff then, and I've continued to ditch that stuff. Now I'm only interested in having things that are essential. I need less. I don't want stuff. You know, that's where I'm at now. My life is all about having experiences. I'm not interested in the latest gadget. The other thing that I'm mindful of with this attitude of accumulating stuff is that one day you will pass away, and if you've got kids, they're going to have to clear your house out. I mean, I remember when my mum passed away about 7 years ago now. Yeah, 7 years ago in 2017 in June. Her bungalow, she'd actually got rid of a lot of stuff, but she still hung on to a heck of a lot of stuff. And it took me and my wife and a little bit of help from my in-laws days to clear that house out. We had boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to leave my son with that kind of legacy. He's welcome to have my hundreds of YouTube videos that I'm going to record. Hopefully they'll help him with his life. But I don't want to leave him with tons and tons of stuff, piles and piles of books and magazines and trinkets and ornaments. That is just utterly pointless. My wife and I go to the car boot sale in York, and one of my abiding memories of those car boot sales is the house clearance people. They turn up in these huge white vans and they start unloading cardboard boxes of stuff, and they start selling stuff off for like £4 for a pound. So 25 pence each, and there's things in there, cutlery, porcelain, glasses, you name it. But even some more personalised items, you do start to see commemorative items that are being given to people for long service, and it's just so sad. If you've got so much stuff, trust me, even if your kids are very conscientious, your stuff is going to end up being cleared out by a house clearance specialist into cardboard boxes, and it's going to end up at the car boot sale. The reality is that if you're still chasing validation and approval of people in your 60s in particular, you're not going to be happy. And if you're still working and you're still chasing gongs and awards and recognition, I mean, ultimately, you're going to get burned out. By the time you hit your 60s, you should be starting to wind down to a slower pace of life where those things become unimportant. What becomes important is growing your mind and getting out into the world and seeing things. Imagine waking up every day knowing that you don't need anybody's approval. You're just free to do what you want, when you want, and with whom you want. Well, that's the life that I've got, and I believe that's the life that you can have if you change your mindset to stop needing the approval of other people. I hope you found this video interesting. Thank you very much for watching. Please drop a comment below. What is your experience of seeking the approval of others? Are you somebody who needs external validation, or are you driven by intrinsic values, things that come from within you, your internal motivations? I'd love to hear. Please leave a comment. Thank you very much for watching the video. I'll see you next time. Before then, you might want to watch this video next. It's all about why nobody cares what you do. Thanks for watching. See you next time.